Alright, so now that we have a table with some data in it, we can see what we have here with this data. And like I mentioned in the last video, this doesn't look real pretty. So we're going to use some CSS to style this up. So in styles.css here, I'm going to create a rule to add some borders to our elements. So the table element, the table row element, the table heading elements, and the TD, or table data elements. So selecting those, now I'm going to give those a border, just a 1 pixel solid black border. And now when I save this, refresh my page, let me zoom this in a little bit, we can see borders around all of this, and it doesn't really look that great for what we're using it for. Depending on what it is you have the table set for, you could keep that way. But if you don't like that and you just want a single border on all of those, there's a property we can use called border collapse. So here I'm going to select the table element, and this border dash collapse property, I'm going to give it the value of collapse. By default, it's not doing this. And what this is going to do, it's going to collapse all of these borders together. So now when I refresh my page, I just have this single border, and that looks, better. I can see around my table that we have that border there. This caption is above that, and we have a little bit darker border at the top, and we can work on styling some of those things to get a little bit different look. But first, our data seems a little squished in here, and like here we can see the columns like I had mentioned. It's going as wide as the widest value. So here, if I changed Robert to Robert 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and save this, that first column is going to be that much wider, and it's expanding for all of those. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to take that back out and refresh this because we don't need it that wide. But with all of this data kind of squished in here, it could be a good idea to just add some padding to those TH and TD tags so that it's not squishing them. And again, it's going to keep these columns the same size. So whatever your longest or widest column is, or widest table data cell is, it's going to make the column that wide. So here on all of these, if I give them a padding of, say, 5 pixels on all 4 sides, we'll save this. And now that increased the width of this TD cell, or TH cell, and then increased the width of the column. That's expected. So here I'm going to go ahead and keep that top and bottom at 5 pixels, and we'll set the left and right to 10 pixels just to give it a little bit more on the left and right, but I think the top and bottom looks okay. So now refreshing that gives us a little bit more space. That's a little bit easier to work with and look at. So that's not too bad. We can also set background colors and things depending on what you need this to do. So here in the table, I could give this background color of gray, save it, and then we have that gray background color. I don't really care for that, so I'm not going to keep it because I want to style those a different way. a lot of times you might see a table that has, this row one color, this row another color, this row the same color as the first, and so on. And there's a way that we can do that. So here we can use the nth child. So tr colon nth dash child. And looking at this, we can give this a few different values. We can give it a specific number so that it grabs, the third child, the fourth child. So if I go with nth child 3, background color yellow, and save this, then the table row tag that is the third child of its parent, which in this case would be the table or table body tag. Here, I haven't used the table body tag, we just have the table tag. But it's the third child of its parent, and it turned that yellow. You can also use odd and even. So here, if I use odd, then it's going to take the first, third, fifth, seventh, and so on child, or the table row that is the first, third, fifth, seventh, and so on child of its parent, and apply those styles to it. So in this case, the odd numbers are going yellow. I can use even. I'm going to copy this rule and just change this to even. Even, not event. And maybe I want to change it to blue and change the text color to white for some reason. Again, we saved that, refresh it, and then we see that change happening. And a lot of times you might want your heading rows and even columns to be a different color to set it off from that data. So you could, excuse me, style those in another way, whether you want to style the first row in your table, you could do that, or you could give this a class that it's a heading row, whatever you might want to do to be able to do that. But so that I don't have to remember that class, I want to go ahead and style it this way, doing the first child. Or first of type. And give it a different background color. We'll say black and make the color white. So we save this, and we have a problem with the way that I did that. The reason that we're having an issue with that is because this table row is not actually a direct child of the table when we see how the browser rendered this. So when I go in here, I inspect this element, and you might have noticed this in the first video. Even though in my HTML I have table and then my tr tags, the browser is rendering this and putting in the tbody tag, which is the body of my table. And then you can see the captions outside of that table body. So I need to remember that there's likely going to be a table body, and even in my HTML, go ahead and use this table body tag so that it helps me to remember that there is a table body tag there. And then let me go ahead and indent this. And saving it now, I still have that same style rule, so when I refresh this, that's not working. But if I add in this tbody to this. So it's looking for the first TR tag inside of the T-body element inside of the table element and styling that. So now I do have this black with white, and that's really not that great. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to gray. And then we have this gray background. That definitely works a lot better. Here we can choose to style all of our TH tags that way. So TH, save that. We'll see how this looks. Now I have that. I mean, maybe that's not that great. Really, the look's kind of off in my opinion, because I think it should match these at least a little bit better. Maybe be a little bit lighter or a little bit darker. But these are different ways that we can style these to get this look that we might want. And there are a ton of other styles that we can include in our CSS to style our tables and get a specific look. It just depends on what it is we might want to do.